No, but we again, don't always agree on everything, but, the way that, we're able to work things out and discuss things and meet mostly in the middle, I think, in my experience working with you on Board of Finance, has been what I think politics should be. And I think that is really rooted in your deep love and commitment to this town. So I just want to thank you for teaching me so much. Your wife isn't here, but I want to thank her for sharing you with us, and all the time and all the committees and all the work that you've done over the years. And I wish you nothing but the best. And I hope you'll stay in touch somehow.
Thank you. I think I can join some of the Zoom calls.
I think we should use our fine money to fly and see her. Me alone could probably fly most of us out there.
Thank you, Katie. Justin?
Fillmore, I think I've only met you about 4 years ago when we started this campaign, but I've certainly known about you far longer. And I would just reiterate what everyone said. It's been an honor to serve with you on this short period of time. You've been a great example and mentor to me on how to operate on this board. And I will just commend, like Dennis did, your love and service and commitment to not only our country, but our community and to your neighbors. So love of country and love of neighbors is a model that you show us every day, and one that we should all try to emulate. So thank you and good luck on the West Coast.
Yeah. Thank you, Justin. Thank you.
I guess I'd just like to say a few things,
Okay.
if the chair will recognize me.
Chair recognizes, yes.
Fillmore, I have not known you as long as John or Katie, but I moved to this beautiful town in 1996. And within a few years, I was getting very interested in what was going on in town, especially with the new high school that they were talking about. And Fillmore McPherson was one of the first names that I kept hearing. I opened the source and I keep seeing that name. And within a few years, I finally did meet you. I enjoyed working on the pension committees, and you were associated with that. And then previously on the Board of Finance. And to echo what I've heard so many times today, what I wanted to say is not only thank you for your service and for all of the things that you've done for our town, but thank you for being the epitome of a gentleman. I have so enjoyed watching you, learning from you, and serving with you. You show what good politics can be. I've heard others say, I may not always have agreed with you, but I never felt like there was an aisle between us. I felt like there was always that room to talk. And when I was on the Board of Finance last time, I was always very proud that there were many times when I may not have agreed with what the board was voting, but it was like, but you know what? Fillmore voted the same way I did.
Is that good or bad?
I was gonna say, there's a caveat to that. It usually had to do with the library.
Oh, okay.
And I know your wife is no longer here, but I did kind of want to say that to her as well. You were always such a great supporter of the library, and I thank you for that as well. Thank you, Phil.
Thank you all for those wonderful words, and I will carry them in my heart. Okay. Report from the first select woman, Ms. Peggy.
Well, I just want to once again echo all the thoughts at our previous meeting, and goodwill to you in your future move to San Diego. And with that, I have no other report today.
Okay. Moving right along. Yes. Okay, any citizen comments? Jacqueline, do we have any citizens?
Nope. No hands are raised at this time.
Okay, all right, moving right along into the heart of the business here. New business, number 8, discuss and take action to approve a special appropriation to the Fireman's Pension Benefit Fund pending Board of Selectmen and special town meeting approval. I will open the discussion. There's no motion at the moment, so I will open the discussion. Unsurprisingly, asking you to take a look at the fund balance report, which I believe is in front of you. It's been a very good year building our fund balance. And if you look at the second, let's see, the projected fund balance at the end of the year, this is unaudited, but it's pretty close to being correct, 8.7 million. And out of that, we have potential uses of 2.1, 800,000, 100,000. So it's basically, I'll call it 3,000,001. That will let's see now. Okay, now that Stacey, that the 2,140,000, that is that's the new project for the new schools after the $1 million grant. Is that? am I reading that
Okay,
correctly?
so, yeah, so the fund balance, right now, the top part, we have about 17
Oh,
and
wait,
a half
excuse me, yes.
million dollars, and then after our reserve policy of 10%, we have available of $8.7 million, and that includes a reduction for the 2.4 million that's going to town meeting.
Yeah, I see that. That's up at
Next
the top. Or
Yep,
top
yep,
portion.
the items on the bottom are just things that could be coming our way,
Okay,
that's all.
so out of the 8.7, we've got another under our current policies, we've got another 5.6 million there. And there's been some discussion, and we're not moving on this tonight, some discussion of increasing our floor, if you will, from the 10% of the budget up to 1.5 months of operating, which would still leave 4 million sitting there. It's been my opinion, as you have heard in previous meetings, that the best way to serve the people of Madison is to bolster our pension funds. If we were real, if all we cared about was politics and getting reelected, we would say, okay, let's write everybody a $1,000 check, or, mail them out, a week before the election or something. But that would be a one and done thing. A pension infusion, once you put the money into it, basically over the next 20 years, reduces the amount that we have to put into pensions by 3 times in round numbers because of the investment that they do. And then a little bit of the background, as you recall, back last year, we basically doubled the fireman's pension, which was well-deserved, first time in 30 years or some such. But that dropped the funding. How many?
It's at least 30.
Yeah, at least 30, yeah. That dropped the funding from up in the 80% range down to 40%. We then, we talked about it at the time, and we put $1 million back into it, but that still fell shy of getting it back up to the 80% level like the other 2 pension funds, like the police and the town pension funds are. So for 2 reasons, then I am proposing that we put another $1 million into the fireman's pension. That would get it up more or less on a par with the other pension funds up to the 80% range, which the bond rating agencies like to see. And number 2, it's probably one of the best ways to invest our money and give the payback to the citizens of Madison. So I'm pushing for $1 million, but I'm going to open it up for discussion before we have any real motions and votes. Anybody else have any comments?
Just a reminder, what did we do so far? $1 million?
We put it on.
We put 1 million in.
Right.
And back when all this discussion started, I was doing a very rough estimate of what it would need, and I thought we would need 1.5 million to get it back up to the 80% range. And so based on that was, we didn't want to put a whole 1.5 million in, but we put 1 million in. And that was after a lot of give and take. And then since then, we've gotten a better estimate from the actuaries that no, it wasn't 1.5 million. Gilmore, you were wrong. It was needed to be 2 million to get it back up there. So that's why I'm saying that the 2 million, extra $1 million is appropriate. You know, if somebody wanted to propose putting in 2 million, to get it up to 9%, I think that'd be great too, but I'm not even gonna twist your arm on that.
Do you know? I'm sorry, I don't want to get fined.
No, that's okay.
These are chairs.
I'll recognize you.
Do you know what the funding level is now approximately?
I don't have the update. We're just getting the actuary, all the info now that we'll have new funding ratios in the fall.
But we did get, we paid a couple of bucks for the actuary back last winter, I think, to come up with a number, didn't we?
For
For the,
what, yeah, I think we were working more on what our annual required contribution would be
Oh, right,
moving
right, right.
forward as
That's
we
right.
got to the budget, based on what we were going to infuse.
Yeah.
So you will have that info.
yeah,
How often is that looked at?
Once a year,
Once?
Yeah.
That piece, but what,
once a year. The
also
whole
once a year?
evaluation is done once a year into the late fall when we get the results.
and I apologize, I should have pulled those numbers out, but I remember that at the current level, we're going to have to increase, you are going to have to increase the budget by a 6-figure number.
Yeah, I, for the annual required, I think before we put the 1 million in, it was at 64,000 a year. And I think without putting anything in, it brought it up to 215,000.
Yeah.
So putting the 1 million in definitely mitigated that increase in the budget. I don't have what it would be putting in another 500 or another.
Yeah, but it was still, even the 1 million we put in, it ends up being, it went from 60 grand to 220 grand. Okay,
Yes.
yes, sir.
The fall, it'll be the following budget year.
Thank
Then
you,
we also
John.
did
Thank you,
the
Mr. Chairman.
reserve.
Listen, I admire your tenacity and your passion here. My concern is putting the money into pensions not a bad thing, hopefully the pension will grow at 6% over the long term, not a bad thing. Interest rates now, yields are over 5, right? My concern is the undesignated fund balance of what else we may need it for. I know people have mentioned the surf club and a lot of other things. I will say, as much as it pains me to say this to you right now, I cannot support $1 million going to the fire pension. I may be able to support some figure tonight, but it won't be $1 million. I would like to hear from our first selectman, but I'm sure there's some concerns there about what we are. And I understand even after this, we still may have, 5 million on the side. I do know that. And we've had this conversation before. I do think this board took action with your passion and your ability to communicate. We put $1 million in a month or so ago or 2 months ago. And I knew you were bringing this up again. I respect that. But if it's okay to hear from our first selectwoman, if there's any other concerns she may or may not have, and I understand she's not on the board of finance, but I'd like to hear that if possible.
Well, as we've had in our previous conversations, we have a lot of capital projects going on. And costs have gone higher than originally planned when we put things into CIP. We end up, tracking things at 3 or 4%, inflation's higher. We have budgets that may be out of whack with where the market is if we want to get some of these projects done. So I think it's important to keep in mind that there might be some additional needs for some of the CIP projects if we want to keep them moving. We also are putting in applications for 2 more grants. The board will be voting on Monday. One is for a connectivity grant for a Scotland Avenue project right down your street to redo the whole street, add sidewalks and drainage. And that is in the CIP.
Now
grant.
you do it. When I leave.
Of course.
She waited for that last minute.
We're hoping you'd stay.
Well, we're waiting for the grant, so we're going and we're hoping, so that isn't CIP, but it's further years out, but if we get this grant award, the opportunity to actually move that project forward more rapidly would be great, because we would then be providing matching funds. There's also a second grant, which I'm completely, what is the other one we're applying for? I'm going to generator.
Steve Green.
The steep grant, oh, that's right, yeah, that's, we're gonna be talking about, we have a incident, the gym floor, which we thought here at Town Campus was just gonna be a simple repair. We've discovered is gonna require remediation and the entire thing to be redone. So we're actually putting together an entire project around that and applying for a steep grant, because the good thing is, when you apply for these grants, if you have construction budgets and you have all the information you need and they're shovel ready, you have a much higher likelihood of getting a grant. But that will require a match as well. So there's a lot of these that keep kind of coming through. And so I think, certainly pension is always a priority. We did $1 million a year and a half ago. We did $1 million for the town pension. We did $1 million for the fireman's pension. I think, we revisit this updated numbers and then look at it as we get through the fall with some of the capital projects and see where we are. We're also going to be getting numbers back on Academy soon. And that is one that we don't know where that's going to come out now with, cost inflation and everything. So I would just keep our powder dry, so to speak, right now, and always have that pension. She keeps a running list of all the kind of priorities the town has, and then revisit it and see, and maybe it's 250 or 500 or, depending on other needs for capital projects. So that's my recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Ms. Katie?
So first of all, I love where you're coming from. I think, paying down our obligation is hugely important, and I'm so glad that we did that in the last budget cycle. I think my concern is, first of all, we haven't decided on the regulation piece of it yet, so that is still a little muddy to know what will remain in the undesignated fund. And while Peggy mentioned some projects, having chaired the CIP for the past 2 years, I can tell you there are many, 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 many others that we had to push out last year. And they didn't get funded at all. So just putting that hat on for a minute, I think, I'm mindful of that and understanding that the fireman's pension did get some relief. And that it would be nice to, there's just so many unknowns right now. And also personally, as a policy wonk, I like doing this within the budget cycle so that we can have the whole landscape, which is what we did last year, with, asking for an increase in what we funded. So I think it's hard right now at this point to commit to that. But I love the premise.
Okay. You have your hand up again, Jude?
I think the first time I met you on an official basis was just after I got onto the pension committee. And you may have been first selectman at the time. And you came in to introduce yourself, and you were just beaming because you had just gotten, I think it was something like $785,000 you had just gotten into the pensions to help fund those. And it was such a great accomplishment. And so I know that those pensions are very important to you. And since that day, they certainly have been important to me. I am glad to hear that we were able to put $1 million into this recently. And I'm hearing you very clearly that there needs to be more to be done. For me personally, I just don't feel like I have enough information tonight to act as a Board of Finance member and commit spending a bunch of the town's money without knowing some more facts and figures, without maybe having the pension committee chair or the actuary or our financial advisor, the pension committees, without being able to ask them some questions. But I would tell you this, I will give you my commitment that I will make sure that this pension stays as one of our top priorities. And if this doesn't get funded now, that we'll have these people come in that I think that we need to talk to. And we'll take action then, because I agree that that is a good use of the town's money. It makes sense. It's, it long-term, it absolutely makes sense long-term. And we have to look at the town's interest long-term.
Thank you. I will interject. Bear in mind that the main reason have been pushing on this is not just out of the blue, but because we basically doubled the payout for it. You know, so it's to fund what we as a town agreed to do back last year. So it's paying for something that we have agreed to do and getting it back up to speed. It's not just some random, oh, that's a good place to invest it or something. Okay, I don't think I'm hearing a lot of support for the $1 million. Any other comments? What I'm going to do is do a Dutch auction rather than have a bunch of motions that get discussed and amended and so forth. I want to start at a high number and inch my way down and eventually.
I love them so much.
She says she loves you so much. I think you're a good guy, okay?
And as soon as we get to as soon as we get 3 hands raised, then that will signify some, some support, and we'll make a motion at that level. So I want to start at $1 million. Is anybody who wishes to put $1 million in the Fireman's Pension Fund, raise their hand? Okay, 750. 700. 600. 500,000. Nobody? 400,000. 300,000. 200,000. 250.
Oh.
So we got 2 people voting for 250. Anybody else voting for 250? Anybody? Was that a hand starting to go?
I like 2 minutes.
200. Who would vote for 200? Yeah, I see 3 hands raised. That being the case, I will make the motion that we have a special appropriation pending Board of Selectmen and I guess town meeting to appropriate $200,000 from the fund balance into the Fireman's Pension Fund. Is there a second? John seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, all in favor of 200,000 into the Fireman's Pension signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay. Motion passes. Okay. No
No,
abstentions, so
she's
everybody
dead.
voted. You voted, yeah. So the motion carries 3-2. So let's go to- Okay.
I think
ever seen the Dutch office.
I am using this in my other bar.
Well,
What's wrong with
back in the, no, I'll just fill this
The
out.
legacy is strong, I'm saying.
Those are usually done in caucus.
It's a very convenient way to, rather than, throwing out a number, you just sort of, it's called a Dutch auction.
Nice job.
I think it was when they were doing tulip bulbs back in the.
Tenacious.
Okay, moving on to number 9, about the modification of the tax fixing agreement. I understand from staff that not ready to move forward on that, so if there are no objections, we will table number 9 until a further meeting.
Do you have to move to table?
No, you can decide.
No, we can, if there are no objections, if you object, then we'll, yeah, but you can, Robert's rules allow for routine things like that in the minutes and adjournments and so on. It also makes it easier for the note taker. Takes up less. Item 10, discuss and take action to enter into a 5-year capital lease agreement for the purchase of the approved CIP highway equipment replacement schedule pending Board of Selectmen approval.
So
It needs to be, you have an amendment.
Oh, yes, excuse me, yes.
I'll
So
withdraw my,
okay, withdraw these.
my,
Um,
Katie withdrew her second.
They've withdrawn, sorry.
Okay.
There's been a slight change in that, so if there are no objections, I'm going to open the agenda to amend the motion to say, discuss and take action to enter into a 5-year capital lease agreement with JP Morgan Chase. So we're getting a little more specific here. JP Morgan Chase for the purchase of the approved CIP highway equipment replacement schedule and approved Canon copiers in the amount of $716,167, pending Board of Selectmen approval.
So
Okay, any discussion on that one?
So to be clear, that's the 716,000 is for both.
Yes.
The highway
The
equipment
highway
and
and
the
and the
copy.
copy,
And-
correct, not just.
Because we're voting to put money into the CIP, not for a particular,
Voting to support the lease that's in CIP for the vehicles.
It was approved to the CIP.
Yes, and the copiers are approved within the budget, operating budget.
Well, I remember I chaired, that's what I'm saying, I was.
and this is not a special appropriation.
No,
This is just spending the money that's in the
just the
CIP.
lease agreement.
Mr. Chair, have these, because, well, like with number 11, have these been approved by the Board of Selectmen or are they pending?
It's on our agenda for Monday.
I don't know, I'm always a little uncomfortable approving stuff before the Board of Selectmen.
This item in particular, we have a vehicle that we ordered months ago that's coming in, so we need this lease. We waited because of the rates, and now we're ready to actually do it, and we figured since we're going to the Board of Selectmen on Monday, rather than waiting till August.
Yeah, because you're towards the end of August, I think.
And it's locking in the rate right now,
I know, it's
It's coming to first or second week of August.
so we would have to have a special meeting.
yeah, no, I'm just saying that it's.
It's
just-
the timing,
Yeah.
when it's coming in and committing to.
It's not
this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Okay, did we have a motion?
We have a motion and a second, we
Yeah.
just need a vote if there's no other discussion.
Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor of 716,167 into the spending from the CIP program, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Okay, 5-0. 11, discuss and take action to accept a grant in the amount of up to $17,500 from Workforce Alliance to approve funding for a Madison Youth and Family Services Summer Youth Employment Program pending Board of Selectmen approval.
So
Second.
And I think in our packets was the list of where all these kids were going to be working. That's good.
good, good.
Any discussion, motion and a second? Discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Review the financials. Are there any? You have a comment or two? You have to. First of all, I would like to compliment the finance department on having $1.5 million and change of interest income over budget. And what's the stiff rate right now?
5.8%.
Still up in that top of percent range?
I'm sorry, just under 5, I don't
And I'm guessing that there are no federally insured bonds that we should be looking at.
Not at this point with
Not
those
to go-
rates, we're
not to go- Okay,
keeping everything there.
all right. Then I noticed down here, excuse me, that the conveyance, we had a over budget receipt of $236,000 in real estate conveyance. I'll be adding to that this year.
Bit of kick in there. Okay.
I'm just trying to
help.
on the upper town medicine.
Thank you.
And I think those are the only comments that I had. Anybody else have any comments? Financials.
Nice job.
No, but I'm sending it to you next month and you can, let me know your questions.
Okay.
You're good.
Well, I am going to be saving the town a bunch of money because nobody else gets the paper copies. like I do. So,
And trees.
so the paper budget's gonna go down next year. All right, any citizen comments? Jack?
No hands are raised.
Okay. That being the case, we are at 8 bells on the dog watch, and I am going to, if there are no objections, declare that this meeting is over.
Nice job. Yeah, yeah, fine.